I'd like to wrap up this session with a reference to one of the less known but equally relevant standards. It's the ISO 38500 standard, the standard for the corporate governance of IT. This international standard provides guidance for those advising, informing, or assisting directors on the effective and acceptable use of IT within organizations. You probably will agree that a return on the significant investment in IT is often not fully realized in many organizations, and these adverse effects can be quite significant. This is really due to the fact that there's a lot of emphasis placed on the technical, financial, and scheduling aspects of IT, rather than the whole business context of the use of IT. The international standard tries to change this through principles, definitions, and a model for good governance of IT. It strives to assist those at the very highest level of organizations to understand and fulfill their legal, regulatory, and ethical obligations in respect to their organization's use of IT. It comprises 6 key principles. It talks about responsibility, strategy, acquisition, performance, conformance, and lastly, human behavior. I'd just like to take an illustration of how this standard builds trust by drawing on the first 3 principles. So the first principle, which talks about responsibility, expects that individuals and groups within the organization accept their responsibilities in respect to both the supply of IT and the demand for IT, so both sides. It therefore requires that those with the responsibility for actions also have the authority to perform those actions. The second principle, which talks about strategy, expects that the organization's business strategy takes into account both the current and future capabilities of IT, and that the plans for the use of IT satisfy both the current and ongoing changing needs of the organization's business strategy. So what does that really mean in practical terms? And how do these help to build trust? In practical terms, you can translate these 2 principles to mean that the IT director should be present at virtually all meetings where you have business directors. They should engage, they should interact. This will help to build the relationship between both sides, business and IT, improve IT's understanding of business issues, and vice versa, also the business understanding of IT. It will help to promote both IT and business alignment and ensure that a trusted relationship, usually lacking in many organizations, is developed between IT and the business. The other illustration I will take is from the third principle of acquisition. This principle expects that IT acquisitions are made for valid reasons on the basis of appropriate and ongoing analysis with clear and transparent decision making. It requires an appropriate balance between benefits, opportunities, costs, and risks in both the short and long term. So what does this mean again in practical terms, and how does this help to build trust? If we can implement this principle by putting in place initiatives that ensure that IT investments are reflected in the respective functional unit budgets. The application to be purchased is to be used by the admin department or to be used by the strategy department, then that department should pay for it. This will promote accountability, since it basically emphasizes the principle that he who gets the benefit should bear the cost. It will also promote ownership. Another way to illustrate this principle is by ensuring that in selecting IT initiatives, IT investments, you have representation from the relevant departments as well as IT in that whole selection process. You include in your selection criteria not just cost, but also the full view of proven benefits. You look at costs from a direct, indirect, ongoing viewpoint, and you also factor in risks. When we go about selecting the right initiatives, we have the right process for selecting initiatives, we involve the right people, we often find that our investments can yield a proper return. These things will ensure that transparency and accountability are in place, They prevent the blame game that we all so often experience. They prevent bug passing, and very importantly, they build trust. I'll give you an example of how a client of ours was able to implement this standard, of course with our support. For them, the first step was to consolidate their wide portfolio of software applications, over 400 applications at that time, to less than half of this size, because we found out that several of those applications were no longer in use. Several of them were duplicated. They basically represented duplicating functionality. And by doing this, by consolidating that portfolio to under 100 proper applications, well-used applications, more cost-effective applications, they were able to save millions of dollars, improve IT's utility, and enhance the competitiveness and responsiveness of their business. So in conclusion, our team of experts has shared with you today deep insights and practical tips about how standards build trust by drawing on the IT-related portfolio of standards which Digital Jewels focuses on. We've talked in some detail about the ISO 27001 Information Security Standard, the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, the Business Continuity Standard, ISO 22301, the IT Service Management Standard, ISO 20000, the Project Management Standard, ISO 21500, the Quality Management Standard, ISO 9001, and finally, the IT Governance Standard, ISO 38500. I hope you found this useful. Remember that our sharing with you today is in celebration of the 2016 World Standards Day. You've had our panel of experts from Digital Jewels, the leading IT governance, risk, and compliance firm across Africa. Thank you for listening. Would love to hear from you. God bless you.